Hello, Nova. Welcome back. Welcome back, Louis.
Oh, oh, sorry about that, guys. Technical difficulty. Oopsie doodle. I don't know. I really don't know what happened, but internet just went off, and I had to restart the router, restart the server, all kinds of crazy stuff. But yeah, we're good. Sorry for the interruption.
No worries. Good to see you again. Welcome back.
Thank you, thank you. It's great to be back. Where were we?
Uh, are we back on?
I believe so. Yeah, we should be. I'm gonna double check right now.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for bringing us back up. Sorry for any delays and interruptions, everyone. Thank you so much, Rana, for your patience. And we've been catching up a little bit, but I wanted to introduce you. You're one of the people that got me into Web3, into NFTs back in the day. I was building the text-based game that we just saw, and you came and said, "Hey, you want to try out a really cool crypto game, NFT game?" And I was all about it. I hopped in, and that was the start of my rabbit hole. I've and highly encourage people to go in and experience things, and that's what I did with your help, and you helped give me the NFT Bible, set me straight. And I remember watching your talks at ETH Paris and being like, oh, this, I get it now, I get it. And so yeah, thank you for coming and talking to us last year about Jolly Roger, and excited to have you on again today. Thank
Perfect.
you.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be there, and really happy to to have for you to have good experience joining. I remember like going into the mud Slack, and I think that's where we met. Like I was just looking for thinking about what people thought about. Yeah, what if we did a crypto mud completely on chain? So actually, I will touch upon a bit that because so I'm going to present Conquest, which is a game I'm working on. So I can share the screen. Yes. Oh. So yeah, basically, so yeah, I'm building Conquest, and Conquest it's also a fully on-chain game. So it's kind of a different take. So basically, we were talking about Eternal, basically the game started as a text base. Then I realized quickly that wait, we need a map to let the player know where they are, and then it become a little more graphical with very nice design, actually very nice art. But we had a kind of difficulty kind of nailing down the full design, and at some point we realized it was time to stop working on that. And at that time, I was thinking already about Conquest, which is kind of really unique in its latest form, which is basically a permissionless and persistent game of diplomacy. But its origin is a simpler game, a game that I used to play like on Linux, actually called Conquest with a K at the start, from the KDE uh, kind of library of games. And this game was, I guess, the game I played the most in this kind of Linux games thing. And yeah, I remember even building a web app, a web version of it. But then I realized, what if I make that on-chain game, because it fitted. The design was very simple. It could be played for a longer period. And not be like a frequent transaction kind of type of game. So I thought it was really good. But there was a few challenge with it, which was like, how? Wait a minute, like if it's running on a blockchain, you can't have a turn base like a traditional turn base. You have to let people come in at any time as well. You cannot have a closed map. I mean, you could, and you could do a round based thing, which is basically also another interesting game is doing is Dark Forest. It's where they launch a session. There is kind of a certain number of players. either through a whitelist or through like a mechanism of like, okay, let's say 2-player, etc. But I wanted with Conquest to do something more like a blockchain-y, like where it's basically permissionless, so there is no whitelist, no set number of players, that anybody can join, anybody can leave, and also on top of that, make it persistent, because obviously if you have an end game, you can also limit in some ways the permission, because you have different type of attack you can make if you know there is an end. But when it's persistent, kind of the game change quite a lot. And so in some way, that's what the subtitle says. In some way, when you do that, when you do a game that is permissionless and persistent and immutable, you make the game a protocol. And so it means that anybody can build on top, but not on top of a game that can be run in an instance. You make it run on a universe that really exists basically beyond anyone. It's kind of creating a universe inside our universe. I've been a bit ahead of myself with the talk right now, but I kind of cover really what I wanted at a high level, but we can go in more detail. So I've been in the crypto gaming space since a while. I've been play around with several things. One of the first was Etherplay, which was like a skill game platform. Then did experiment with NFT, Mystery Market, and then Eternal World, which was the mud game we were talking about, and did experiment with, and also other kind of thing like generated art, etc. But yeah, so this is like a picture of Conquest. Actually, this is a beta version where each different thing you can see on the screen is basically a player. It's like a blocky. So it's like each control a planet on this, and the game is relatively simple. You can do only 3 actions, really. I mean, it's a bit more complex than that, but there is 3 core actions you can make. And the game play over the long run. So when you send, so you can stake. So really the core element to Conquest is that you put a risk, an asset, like so currently it's XDAI. So it's a token that is backed with XDAI. So you basically put XDAI onto a planet, and then that planet produces spaceship for you. And you can then, which is second action, you can then send fleet to other planet. And it could be an attack, but it could also be sending reinforcement to your other planet or to your allies, to your friends. And so this simple mechanism, I think there is a video here. Yeah, so kind of here I pick a planet that it's like few other planets. So for example, there is this person I want to attack, and then I can specify the number of spaceship I send. And when I do that, and when the transaction is sent, nobody know where these spaceships are going. So you can know where it's going. People can see how many spaceship is being emitted, but they have no clue whether you are sending a reinforcement to yourself or you are attacking them. And so what it makes this game really a social game, because this kind of this aspect of not knowing everything allow you to lie, to betray, and kind of. So the goal of the game is to make sure you know who you can trust. And yeah, so that's what we have seen. There was a few. So the main thing is that the public map is there, so you can see every planet there, which is nice for basically connecting with existing player. But your actions are hidden. And there is also an alliance system, so that's kind of beyond the 3 action I mentioned. Also, I didn't mention the 3rd action actually. So you can stake, send, and then you can exit. And exit takes time, so it takes like 3 days to exit, and so it basically allows people to counter-attack if you manage to capture the planet. They still have a chance to get it back. But really, what turned out to be is that the way to win is not to be the best strategic. It obviously gives you an advantage if you have some good strategy, but if you are one with, let's say, you put at risk, let's say $300 worth of token, and you are attacking someone with $100 worth of token, like with good strategy, you have a good chance to win. But suddenly, if this player is taking an alliance with 10 other with also 100, whether you have more power. I mean, now the strategy doesn't play much. Is how you can make sure maybe to cause discord. I mean, to inside the rank. That's where you can you stand a chance and maybe ally with some of them and force them to betray their allies. And this, obviously, everything is possible. We are in the crypto space. There is a way to do like smart contract to enforce certain rules. So that's where the on-chain alliances come in. You can decide to partner with someone you don't really trust, but you say, okay, let's make a deal. We deposit each $200 in a smart contract, and the rule in that smart contract say that if anyone attack any other, you can claim that deposit from the other player. And obviously, you feel it works well until someone come and bribe the other more than the deposit to betray yourself, and then obviously things change. But I mean, we have not seen that yet at this stage. We have seen alliances. We have seen interesting mechanism. I think, I was planning to talk a bit later, but there is quite a lot of meta game that can happen in Conquest. And as I mentioned earlier, Conquest is based on this Linux game, which itself have a very interesting history. Actually, I should have put the link here, but there is if you look for Galcon, it's a more fast-paced game, but on the website, I don't remember the link, but they bring to a link of the history of this earlier game, and it go back actually quite far, quite at the very, very early games, where there was just primitive terminal. I mean, I think it go back to a game where we don't even know who created it, and there was this idea of like, okay, I send this to a planet. I think it was not planet at that time; it was spaceships. But so the spaceship were basically in some way like the same game, but instead of planet being fixed, you had spaceship. You can send troops inside the spaceship or something, or resources. Anyway, it's interesting to follow, and I think it could even bring other kind of game idea. I think for to make actually on a blockchain. But basically you have this game. It's a grid. It's a fixed number of planets, a fixed number of players, and you have to play this game at least 3 players. That's where it's become very funny, because what happened in this game, so I'm talking about Conquest here with a K, but you have kind of a similar feel, but also different. But basically in that close environment game with 3 players, what happened is that one of the players start to get the lead at some point. And at that point, the only strategy the other 2 can have is to collaborate. And so when they do that, then they certainly can make the other lose the lead. But now the trick is, how do these 2 manage to take the lead? And so that's where the kind of the diplomatic element take place. And obviously it's only with 3, and with 5, 6, 7, or 4 even, it becomes always an interesting story. And so that was the feeling I wanted to bring into Conquest, but make it permissionless and persistent. And I think the solution really to that is this proof of stake mechanism, which is, I mean, proof of stake, or it's more like I put stake. I have to risk something in order to play, which allow anyone to come. Obviously, the first question that come to mind is, what if someone come with $1 million on the game, which have only $1,000 worth right now? Of course, that person can conquer the whole universe. But the thing is that they are doing that by putting that same amount at risk, and they have no clue that someone will come with 2 million, etc., etc. And so it's interesting, because today there is this version that have that used to have $1,500, and anybody could come with $10,000, for example, but it didn't happen. I mean, obviously, this game don't have much traction yet, so this could be the reason. But also, it's also not that easy to with basically the money, while being important to get enough stake, is not the only story. Yeah, but that kind of, and yeah, and as a game running on the blockchain on smart contract, it also make it fully composable. So the game doesn't care. So it has everything is delegatable. So you can delegate your planet to a contract. You can delegate your basically the sending of fleet, the resolution of fleet. And so what it means is that as soon as you can transfer a gift to someone, you can obviously sell instead of giving. And so even though you could, as a game, actually some play it was interesting. You can join the game without staking by just buying spaceship from other player, and then you can use these spaceships to attack other and capture a planet. So you could enter a game this way rather than staking. And this is done without the game knowing. There is a plugin system that allow you to have such a plugin, where the plugin allow you to purchase spaceship and send them anywhere you want. And similarly, the alliances are smart contracts themselves, and so you can create some kind of merchant alliance that tell, okay, we agree to never attack each other, and that our fleet should not basically be sent to attack our member, and maybe you only sell to people who agree to that same pact. So you cannot be maybe a powerful alliance by being peaceful, but still selling to the one who attack other, but not your own alliance. So there is interest. This didn't take place yet, but it's definitely possible. And so what it means is that while the game only allow you to technically for kind of push you toward attacks, you could have a different role simply because the game can be extended by the players. And obviously this may be a bit limited right now, but there is quite a few ideas in the work that could kind of add more roles to players that don't necessarily need to attack. And I think that would be interesting to bring more player into the game. Yeah, so just a little quick overview. I mean, the first kind of idea was around 2019, but really I started to prototype this in 2020, 2021. It took a while before the first alpha. It was doing mostly on my spare time. The first alpha is where I started to work basically full time on it. And now it's been a year. It's been crazy actually, but there was two alpha, one beta, and in green that were the last milestone, which is the Defcon edition. Defcon was a very interesting event of on-chain game in Amsterdam, and while I presented Conquest, I also launched. It was kind of a last-minute decision. I realized, okay, I need to do something special, and I launched this version that never stopped. So right now there is a version running on Gnosis chain that never stopped, and that's where it's interesting to see, because that Conquest was always designed to be that way. But obviously for the alpha, it was kind of set up some around. I could probably have done that, but but anyway, the first alpha beta, it was a round base, usually around 3 weeks of play. And it's a very different feeling, because when you know it stopped at 3 weeks, you have very different behavior, especially at the end, because you know that, okay, this is the time where I need to be at the leaderboard. I need to do everything possible to capture as much. But when it's persistent, it's a different story. It's maybe more about how to make sure diplomacy become more important. But actually it was interesting. I'll mention that later, but it's interesting to watch also what's happening in this edition, because it's kind of a game over right now, but it's never a game over, because there is basically one empire, like an alliance, that took over, but anybody could still come and try to conquer them. And then later down the line, I mean, June, that was the date before, I think, realistically, the Conquest V0. I'm not sure I will even call it V0 anymore, but I want to explore new mechanism, still in experimental mode. So Defcon edition is infinite, but it's still upgradable. So still still control mostly. I mean, I've done nothing except fixing bugs, but obviously, yeah. So the plan is to at some point release a version with also the code source open. Right now, we are publishing more and more. We are actually on the Gitcon grant right now. We have already published quite a few library and tools to make on-chain games, and down the line we will open source the whole game. But yeah, right now we are kind of fixing, improving as we go. But yeah, maybe realistically might have some at least permanent non-upgradable maybe end of 2000 of this year, or maybe the beginning of next, kind of the timeline I see. And yeah, the origin story, as I mentioned, was like, I mean, for me, when I discovered Ethereum, was always, as a game developer, was always like, I remember Ethereum website was like build unstoppable application, and as a game developer, I was obviously reading it as build unstoppable games. So that's been always in my mind how to make this. And at first, I realized, oh, the gas price at that point in time, okay, the gas price is quite high, even though in today's standard it was very, very cheap. And actually, funnily enough, Conquest could have run very well back then. But obviously, when it takes time to realize what you can do and what you cannot do. But anyway, I was exploring Etherplay, which was kind of not on chain. The game was off chain. There was a kind of verification game in some way about your play. Tug of War was an on-chain game, 2-player game, fully on-chain, and then that was like 2017. Yeah, but then Eternal was really where I see, okay, Ethereum won't be there for a while, but look, we have like XDAI, we have Matic. This is the future. Like, and so that was the exploration of what we can do, and that was a very interesting game where player could just move around the dungeon, and at the same time as they were moving, they were creating the dungeon. I mean, at least the player, so you can see the map here. And yeah, I kind of mentioned with Conquest, we have like the Conquest with a K. We have like an on-chain game. I think there is you can. I think a good inspiration for me is all these board games, and most of them are turn-based. But when you put them on the blockchain, you are not going. I mean, I think it could of course work. I mean, but I think we live in a world where asynchronous game work very well in a blockchain environment where you let anyone play at their own time, and you don't have to wait for the one previous to play. And actually, it's not only about blockchain. I mean, other game also suffer for this. I think turn-based work well when you know you are in the same time, and it could work well on if you have enough people also in a lobby kind of thing. But it introduces also other kind of issue, especially if it's multiplayer. In the crypto space, I mean, if it's multiplayer, if you want to play 3-player, you want to make sure that the other 2 players don't know you as not much as you, because you have other issue of corruption and stuff. Like, obviously, it's fine if it's part of the game, and in some way, Conquest is about that. But you need to have a kind of a fair ground in the first place. And so that's why permissionless is important here, that any player can join any time. And again, same for closed and open-ended. And again, this idea of Sybil resistance. Like, if I can create, if in Conquest we didn't have this stake to play, I mean, I could just create many accounts and have many planets. So the stake here is very important to solve all of this. But obviously, I mean, I think for people here hearing about maybe their own game they are making, or maybe they want to make, I mean, obviously, this is one perspective. I think there is a lot of different things to explore. But for me, this is the one kind of thing that I like in particular. So I mentioned there was 2 alpha, 1 beta, and they were RAN-based. There was, the plugin system was added in the beta. There was interesting thing happening in the beta where alliances formed. They created their own Discord server, so that was really good to see for me. And that's where I made now Alliance smart contract is actually a 1155 token, which allow you to easily create collab land or this kind of thing for your own alliance. You can just tell them, okay, just prove that you are this address, and then you can join maybe a server. So that kind of what they could use. And also the community started to make tools. So that was really, really happy. I was really happy to see that. There was Fraser building this really cool map. Actually, I need to implement that myself in the game, where it kind of show the alliance territory and the players, which is, yeah, it was useful for them. But yeah, basically right now is what is happening is a Defcon edition, permissionless and persistent. And so it's really a first. I think it's a first game that is both permission. I mean, I guess if you go back to Huntercoin, the first game on the blockchain was also permissionless and persistent. I think what really Conquest add to this is that it's also interoperable in a way, like in an easily way with smart contract. But yeah, really what it feels is that we have now an independent universe inside our own, like, and in some way, by having that, your game become also a protocol, because you can do stuff on it on top of it. And yeah, so this is the latest. Yeah, some other image. This is from the Defcon edition at some point. So now the map doesn't look like that. So on the right, now the Meta Guild and 0x Risk are basically joined together forces, and they took over the universe really right now. And it was interesting what happened. I forgot who was the other one, but some player wanted to leave, and they still had quite a good chunk. So while 0x and Meta Guild could attack this player, they would lose, especially 0x Risk and Meta Guild were not on good. They were not on an alliance. So whoever was attacking that other was in some way bringing weakness to itself. And so what happened is that this player decided to sell their empire. I thought it was funny to watch. And what happened is that Meta Guild and 0x decided to join forces at that time, which was to me a bit weird, because I could understand them. I guess that was the safest possible way to keep what they gain by capturing all this planet. And so they did that, and right now they are still there. They quitted with lots of stakes. So the game now is a lot less. So at some point you reach $1,700 maybe, and now it's maybe around $200-300. I'm not really sure. But technically now it also means that they are not as strong as before if someone wanted to come and attack them. And on the left is from the team Moonstream, which is doing really cool work on open source work on games that they discover in the Web3 space, and they decided to spend time on building this map. So it's actually an interesting view that I would like to also implement somehow in the game. This one is like the highlights. The more it's bright, the more. So it's a map of events that happen in the world. So every time there is an event, for example, a fleet is emitted or something like that, then the brightness increase. And so it's a nice way to see the history of things. So interesting thing from the community. And so what next? I say summer, like probably another. I think the idea is to add new features. So I'm keen to add artifact NFT and interesting mechanics there about kind of adding a new role for player that they have to send fleet in the empty space. So the game, to ensure people play together, there is a kind of a square at the center that keep increasing as players come and join. But then the idea is that the space around is a space to discover artifact, and this artifact could do lots of things, and it could also be just trophies maybe. I mean, there is a lot of work to do, but kind of that's what I want to explore also, to see how can I push the smart contract, because the game right now is quite simple, the core is simple, but it still start to kind of fix kind of some game design issue. It kind of added some complexity, so of course I have to keep that in check. And on top of the artifact NFT, there is also a collection of avatar NFT that is coming. So this is something the community asked, and I'm really keen to. So have a good friend artist, very, very talented, that is working on it. And I think they are going to basically require me to kind of revamp as well the UI, which need to be done anyway. But and for them, there is a lot of interesting thing to do. One of them, for sure, they are going to have on-chain visual elements. What I mean here is not on-chain in the fact that the asset will be on-chain with the style we are going with. They are going to be like IPFS based, but the idea is that there will be a level associated with the avatar, and you have to basically send the avatar into your game to play with it. And as you play the game, as you stake more planet, conquer more planet, your avatar level up, and you see that on its representation. But there is also some interesting on-chain utility that I want to have. But one thing with Conquest is that Conquest want to remain a fair game. A fair, I mean, in a general sense, because obviously we are dealing with stakes and stuff. But assuming two players with the same stake, Conquest don't want to have someone having an NFT giving them access. The reason for that is that NFT will have a cap supply, and so this is a different situation than stake, where it's kind of not infinite, but obviously anyone can come with more and can bring more people to join them with avatar. But there is other way to do interesting thing. One of them is you can stake an NFT on one of the avatar NFT on the planet to give it the bonus. But then if someone capture your planet, they can capture your avatar. And for that, there is also some very interesting things. So I'm actually writing also a white paper on that to kind of explain more details. Another thing that is planning this idea of culture points that you acquire on a planet, and this gives you some interesting perks that you have on a planet. So the more, if you are the one with the most, so let's say I come on the planet first, I acquire culture points. Someone come capture that planet back. For a while, I would still have more culture points than the new owner. And this could be have interesting dynamics. Like, for example, it could be I can set the name of the planet. I can maybe change a flag or something on that planet, or I can even build a statue of myself or of my avatar or whatever. And on top of that, you could have also on-chain mechanic. Like, for example, if your avatar, so you had an avatar on that planet, they capture your planet, but your culture point, maybe one thing is that until their culture point is higher than yours on that planet, they can only keep your avatar prisoner, but they can't take it away. And this kind of, so I think there is a lot of interesting things we can explore, which bring more lore and story. That's really what I want to explore now, kind of bringing more life to the universe. I know players love that. I mean, when you fight and you lose or win, you always want to be able to tell story, and if there is a way to do that in an easier way in game, will be of course a lot better. So actually that's it for me. Let me go back there.
Awesome presentation. Super cool. Thank you so much for sharing. I love the Defcon map too. How long does it take for someone to kind of color the map, and how many players was that?
Actually, the Defcon one, there was not so many players. There were maybe 50 at the max. I think less than the beta and the alpha. So actually, no, probably less. Yeah, even. But actually, it was a bit tricky because Defcon, when I launched the Defcon, I also started to give free tokens. They were not free actually. They were real dollar, but they were wrapped. It was a nice way for me to give them, and it was wrapped in a way that they have to stay in the game for 6 days in order to unwrap them back to XDAI. And so some of these players, unfortunately, when they get this, they don't play because they feel like it's too much effort to kind of get back these dice. So there was still a few players that didn't really play. But yeah, I think it's still on. It will still be on. So that's the cool thing about it. Yeah.
Amazing. I love how deep you've thought in this, and I love to pick your brain sometime about game design and learn more about participating. What were some of the game resources? You said that you created game resources for developers in the space as well. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm building tools. So Conquest, so now Conquest dash ETH on GitHub. There is kind of we're starting to basically kind of publish the repo as we go along. The only two repos that are not public is the smart contract and the front end. But we have because we have the plugin system, we have also plugin open source, and all of them use my tooling, which is like Ardent Deploy, Jolly Roger, and I mean there is not much education resource on that, so no tutorial really. But yeah, I wish I had more time for that. But yeah, at least there is code, and yeah, we plan to publish more and more basically.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I love it. I'll definitely reach out again and we'll talk and I'll check out the resources. I'll check out Conquest too. It's available on Polygon or which chain?
Notice chain.
Gnosis XI, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Gnosis. Awesome.
I've got a couple questions from the main stage chat in Discord. The first one is, can the community vote on changes in core game mechanics?
So right now, no. I mean, there is a community. So obviously, like I'm always keen to hear feedback. But we are. I mean, if the question was about on-chain governance, we are not at this stage yet. But so it's interesting because with Conquest, the goal is to actually have no governance. So we explore different ideas. Actually, I come back and forth. The idea of having a token, and if you have a token, then you might need governance to decide which game work with that token because of its particularities. And then in that case, they will be voting for down the line. I mean, I think it's take a progressive approach for that. But there is also another design which I feel simpler, but that don't have a token, which is basically what we have right now. In which case, a game, when it's launched, it's immutable. There is no governance. Anybody can choose to join, or maybe even down the line is like players say, you know what, I create my own instance. I think your rule doesn't work well for me. I have my own idea, and suddenly and then it's basically up to the player to say where they go. But I think it's right now it's not that. So yeah, but that could be the different direction it could go.
Okay, nice. The second question is, will plugin marketplace be usable in other UIs? Marketplace plugin?
So I mean, you can make it so the idea is the plugin system right now is very rudimentary. It's really ad hoc to make it work with the marketplace, but assuming right now, yeah, it could be reused in anything. I mean, it's mostly it just follow a certain standard. So if you use that same standard, then I think the issue here is more about documentation and
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we heard that same thing when we're talking about wearables and adoption. It comes back to standardization. If everyone does like a bespoke solution, then we don't really get as far ahead. We need to have interoperability. People need to have some kind of predictability about what is going to be there and how we can interpret it in a way that makes sense. So it definitely, if we're talking about rule changes, the worlds still have to be compatible,
Yeah.
And I think that's the big thing, is that people will naturally kind of gravitate to where the people are and where the community is. So I think if there's a schism of a rule change that deeply, it's probably better that the community works through it than fork off. But at the same time, as you say, it's permissionless, so people are free to experiment and go off and do what they want to do as well.
Yeah.
There's one more question. Can use of in-game NFTs hold on, let me read this properly. Can you use in-game NFTs as voting power? An example would be like Planets Conquered.
Yes, I mean right now, so for voting, so as I say, it's not really ready at that time for any kind of voting, but there was few ideas. I mean, actually originally I remember thinking, what? Oh, that would be cool. Actually, the player who puts stake are the one who vote, because after all, they are the one who put the risk into the game. But at the same time, it might not be a good idea for the one maybe who have less resources, and because it's one thing to be in the game and have more power, because they could give themselves an advantage. Because I think in the game, it's you can survive, you can play very well, even if you are not that powerful, if you manage your diplomatic strategy well. But if suddenly the one who have more power, not on top of that, they have a way to change a rule, then suddenly it might become unfair. So, I mean, for governance, I actually have been thinking about using this NFT collection as a point, but it's still on the paper right now, but that may be another approach. But also, I like what Optimism is doing actually on maybe having a hybrid model where you have like on-chain one, which is vulnerable to captures, but off-chain one, which is also vulnerable to capture, but in another kind of capture. And maybe I'm not really at that point. I think I would like to basically to see also what the community want. And but yeah, I think it's interesting to at least see that. For example, actually going back to the stake, another one could be, which is related to that, but it could be your level, because you have so the game will be designed for the NFT to that the avatar level up, the avatar themselves level up as more you play, and so that could be maybe a way to do that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for answering the questions and showing us Conquest. It's amazing to have you here and see the progress. And as I said, Eternal was one of the games that onboarded me into Web3. And so thank you so much for being a guiding figure for NFTs and all the amazing projects that you've supported and continue to do. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to close out the day. We're almost at the top of the hour. We've been going for 7 hours today, so it's been a big day at MetaFest2. We were gonna intro a little bit of Sandbox and show you around some parcels and building and stuff, but I think we'll save that for a weekend time. And yeah, so we're gonna close it at the end of this session, and yeah, definitely come back all week. Make sure that you mention your Gitcoin grant, Ronan. What's the name of that grant right now?
Yeah. So I think let me see the. Oops, I don't.
And yeah, as I mentioned before, Gitcoin round 14 is going on right now until the 23rd. So, donating to projects that are producing value and actually in here doing their passion and building important things can really benefit from your support. So the benefits of public funding.
Some new Discord link. I don't know where the best way to share, but
okay.
Yeah,
I'll share the link in the Discord, but look up conquest.eth and permissionless persistent game of diplomacy. So yeah, definitely check out Conquest, and thank you very much.
Again, man, amazing stuff.
Posted on the main stage. Well, thanks so much, Bogey. Thank you, Musashi, Tenpenny, all of our guests today. Thank you so much, Jin and Rev. Thank you so much, Tenpenny. It's been a wonderful day going through wearables, muds. Thank you, Exiled Surfer, showing us Dropper. I hope everyone liked Mud, and we'll definitely have some play sessions on the weekend. If anyone else has a game that they want to get some people to play or some feedback, the weekends are going to be a little bit more fun. So we're going to have some DJs. The 19th, I believe, we have Life Live DAO that's going to be presenting some DJs, and we're going to have a party on that weekend. But yeah, this next weekend and Saturday is full of amazing, fun stuff too. So we'll have some DJs. I think Temp Finney will be back, and yeah, so come back next week when we really kick it up with DAO talks. We're gonna have the meta days where we talk DAO tooling, and then we're gonna have the 14th, 15th, and 16th where we talk with the leaders in the DAO space. So Raid Guild, DAO House, and the Metacartel ecosystem will come back. The 16th is dedicated to Women's Day and conflict resolution. So definitely come back as we promote diversity and DAOs and all the good things that are happening in Ethereum and the Web3 space. So thank you so much for sharing about what's going on in the metaverse today, and we'll come back tomorrow.
Sweet. Have a great evening, folks.
I have a suspicion that the next